hell is this, Jay?
You know what that is, Jason?
No, what is it?
That is the sound of Eloy Jimenez and Giancarlo Stanton trying to play the field out in the outfield.
Oh, holy shit.
Oh, stop acting like we didn't talk about this before.
That's like old school slappy dick music, Jay.
Well, there's a couple of these guys. Or is it the sound of Henry Davis or Dalton Varsho trying to get back behind the plate and play catcher again?
Well, Henry Davis got a lot of value this year because I think he's going to end up playing more DH and outfield than catcher, but I think he's going to get catcher
You think
eligibility.
he's going to get the eligibility back?
Oh, yeah.
They said that they still see him as a decent option behind the plate. Right? That's what the Pirates have said. So I hope he does.
Take what the Pirates say with a grain of salt, because right now I'm getting kind of worried that they're gonna hold Jared Jones down just simply to manipulate the Super 2 status. And
You think the Pirates are looking good enough that somebody has to go? Somebody has to get traded this year? Somebody big, one of their best players?
That's how it always works.
Well, I mean, they're getting to the point where they're burgeoning with some talent that maybe has to... Somebody's going to want Hunter Davis the same way people wanted...
Well, no,
Dalton
he's too
Varsho.
young. The guy to go would be Brian Reynolds.
Yeah.
All right, well, this is not a podcast about the Pittsburgh freaking Pirates. This is a podcast about outfielders, Jay.
This is it, man. We're going to look through this list of outfielders. We're going to talk about our favorite targets in the outfield. We're going to, for the most part, guys, we're going to forego talking about the top 100 ADP players who are outfield eligible. We're going to say at the onset that, guys, if you're in a 10, 12-team league, your lineup's going to consist mostly of some of these guys in the top 100. If you're in a deep league and you got some of these guys in your outfield, good job. Good for you. You got Corbin Carroll in your outfield.
That's
you got, Yordan Alvarez sliding in your outfield. You got Julio Rodriguez. Congratulations. I don't have any of those guys.
Neither do I.
I'm gonna be piecing it together at outfield. But you know what?
This is why we do this shit.
This is why we do this. We're deep league guys, and so we're going to look for value all the way down that list of outfielders. And actually, after looking at it and after, listening to some podcasts this week about deep sleepers, I'm seeing a lot of late value in the draft and in the outfield. And so I'm excited about that because, we're about to do our Fantasy Premier League draft this coming weekend, and I have a lot of late draft picks, and I don't have very many early ones.
As
so
do
I'm
I.
gonna be looking for that value wherever I can find it, and it's out there. It's out there, and I'll say, just as a point of strategy, when we're talking about drafts this year, and I said this on the last podcast, one of my strategies this year, and I'm giving away, and I hate to talk about this a little bit because I'm like, I don't know how much I can say about this next weekend. Like, I'm going to give away all my secrets here again.
So again, we're
for the
speaking
draft.
to an audience that may not even be in one of these deep category leagues.
No, but the guys that are in our league are going to hear this. They're going to hear me say these names. Anyways,
the more conversation we get, the better, Jay.
my strategy, to be honest, guys, I'll just throw it out there. I'm not taking no middle relievers in the late rounds, guys. I'm gonna keep taking hitters and starting pitchers until the draft is over. So that's one of my, and it's some of these guys are gonna be outfielders that I'm looking at in these late rounds. So
I do want to clarify. I want to clarify two things before we get going into these players. Number one, we open with some good old school clown music. Giancarlo Stanton, for all intents and purposes, is not outfield eligible. He is DH only. We just could not resist the temptation.
isn't he still outfield?
No.
Right field eligible?
No. He lost all of that last year. Have you seen that guy run the bases, Jay?
I've seen it.
It's painful.
I've seen it.
He could still.
He is right field eligible
Where?
on Fantrax and Yahoo, I think.
I don't believe he is in Yahoo. Anyway,
I'll look on Yahoo.
All right, that's cool. bottom line is
because he did play a handful of games out there last year,
dude.
and it wasn't
should
pretty,
not
and it
be
wasn't pretty on
playing
the
in
bases
outfield.
either. It's like it's not like Justin Turner. Like Giancarlo Stanton doesn't even try to stop; he just runs right into the tag. At least Justin Turner tries to stop, and then when his knees almost give out, he just kind of like stops in the middle of the base.
That's
You know
gonna
what I mean?
go down. We're gonna be talking about that play from opening day 2000. What was that? 22 or 21?
Oh my god!
We're gonna be talking about that play for years to come. But
There's
hey,
more though. There's more than just that with Justin Turner. Anyways, this podcast is about
one
outfield,
last
but
thing here, Jay.
I have to correct you. He is right field eligible on both.
I
of
stand
these.
corrected. I stand
And
corrected.
I am so sorry.
It's okay.
tell you
it's
this.
cool.
But Yordan Alvarez's other name we
There we
have
go.
to add to
Yeah,
that list. So,
yeah.
and he is like he's only going to DH this year, right? He's not going to play in left field. Is
I
he?
mean,
is
you
he?
would think that was Stanton.
maybe
you
he is good.
All you have to do is get like 5 games in on Yahoo and Fantrack to become eligible.
I will say, like I am coveting Yordan Alvarez right now, and it's sad that I'm not going to probably have him in either of our leagues. I mean, I could try to make an offer for him, but I mean, I hope he does and keeps that eligibility. But I haven't really paid attention to whether he's going to play the field. But they're saying that Eloy Jimenez is healthy. They want him to play in the outfield, and it sounds. I mean, not every day, but it sounds like more than a handful of games he's going to trot out there in right field.
Hey,
To get those at bats, and I think he's going to get a lot if he can stay healthy and stay on the field.
Jay, we
In
gotta
the
get
box.
we gotta get off these slappy dick hitters, man. Look, I'm sorry.
I know.
So
But
here,
as hitters, they're great.
do you remember? Okay, so Jay and I, a few weeks ago, started talking about how we were going to introduce this podcast to the listening audience. And to the listening audience, if you guys listen to other podcasts, they talk about how dangerously thin outfield gets after the elite players go off the board. I find this hilarious from a deep league perspective because we actually, for a fleeting second, thought about leading this podcast off with Kenny Loggins' Danger Zone.
Yeah.
But it's so inappropriate for our league because we are the opposite. When you are in a 16-team league, 15-team plus, and your player pool goes 400 deep,
Right.
that middle area for outfield where those 12-teamers are scared is gold for us deep leaguers. And so we are going to talk about these guys, and we so appreciate the talent and the depth at the outfield position because we are here, the fantasy baseball advocates are here to advocate for the outfield position in fantasy baseball being a strength and not a weakness.
Yeah, at a certain point, I'm going to be looking at these guys in the late round and thinking some of these are like relatively safe options. I mean, to bring up one name, Will Benson, it's like you got to find somebody like that is like, he's probably going to get a lot of playing time. And only when Noelvi Marte comes back is there going to be a big, I feel like, crunch. And, people are going to start losing at bats. So,
I love it, Jay.
For the first half
He
of the
didn't even
season.
make my top 75. You just already named a name that's going to provide value in deep leagues.
I've been listening to all these deep sleeper podcasts.
Hey,
the
that's
last
great.
Couple days.
Doing
So
our homework.
that's what's in my mind right now.
All right, so let's we're gonna lean in your expertise here, Jay. So like going through some of these names, we're not gonna cover the names in the top 100 consensus ADP. Jay alluded to this earlier. We're just gonna name them off, and then when there's gonna be a bit of a drop off, and it happens around between ADP like 95 and 125, where there's kind of a gap where there's not many outfielders, and then you start looking at some outfielders where they get scared, and as the last resort of a solid outfielder in the shallower league, this is just where the gold starts. in the deep league. So we are.
So we're cutting off like right about Brian Reynolds, area ADP in the mid 90s, and so we're gonna start with people that are like ADP, 100 or past about 100, right?
So just so our audience can know, we have, and this is in not any specific order. It's relatively ranked, but Ronald Acuna Jr., Julio Rodriguez, Corbin Carroll, Mookie Betts, Fernando Tatis, Aaron Judge, Kyle Tucker, Juan Soto, Yordan Alvarez, Mike Trout, Michael Harris, Josh Lowe, Luis Roberts, Cody Bellinger, Kyle Schwarber, Adolis Garcia, Randy Rosarina, Nolan Jones, Brian Reynolds. We're not going to talk about those guys. Those guys, for all intents and purposes, are consensus top 100 ADPs across all formats. That's those guys are solid.
One question though.
Go for
Gun
it.
to your head. Are you taking?
I love these questions.
Are you taking Bellinger over Randy Arozarena and all the guys you just listed below him? You what?
So you're saying gun to my head, I have to choose one?
Yeah. Okay. Let me give you three.
Okay.
Cody Bellinger, Adolis Garcia, Randy Arozarena.
Out of those three, well, I mean, let's look
Looks
at my
like
ranking.
you're a little lower on Arozarena. I don't want to put ideas in your head, but
Yeah,
it's hard.
It
gets
is
a little hard.
I think I would go a Rosarina. Now that I'm thinking in that context.
It is hard, and that's kind of the point, right? Is we're starting at the point where it gets a little.
Yeah, but those guys are still like if I'm just doing a random draft and I need an outfielder, those guys can all be lower tier outfield 1, upper tier outfield 2. So
And there's a lot of hype and excitement about Nolan Jones right now, so I think that people are really high on Nolan Jones. I think they're willing to pay, a premium for his power and everything.
absolutely.
And where he's playing.
The scary thing about him is you only had a half season that sample size, so people are. I think he's one of your boomer bust picks this year, but again,
just make sure you're playing in Colorado.
yeah,
That's the moral of the story. After looking at DJ LeMahieu's stats last night, or just playing 2019 with the juiced ball. LeMahieu hit 26 home runs or something like that in 2019. It's the only time he's ever gone over 20 home runs in a season, I think.
Oh my gosh.
Anyways, we won't talk about 2019.
No, it's okay.
Unless it comes up with one of these guys. Yeah. So, let's go right to the top of our list here. You've got Teo Hernandez right at the top of this list, starting right around ADP 100.
I kind of look, the way I see Teoscar Hernandez is he should be going around ADP 110 ish.
Yeah.
And I feel like, look, this is just a cluster of guys. So like Jay. I told you I wanted to lean into your expertise, so I'm gonna give you some groupings here, but I'll talk about Teoscar if you want me to. Do you want me to talk about Teo or?
I like Teo.
I do too.
First of all, he got 625 at bats last season.
Yes, that's awesome.
I feel like it took him a while to get going, and the first half of the season was not pretty, but he more than made up for it as the season went along. So, I think looking at his career stats, many seasons he's got an on-base percentage around 300. He has had seasons where it's been more like in the 340s. So if we could see more walks from him in that much of a sample size, like there's even room to get better here, guys. And he struck out 211 times. cut down the strikeouts a little bit, bring up the walks a little bit, get on base more. I know that's not his job. His job is to drive in runs. I'm just saying, you see a little bit more patience from him, and wow.
Yeah, and the reason I love Teoscar is because look what J.D. Martinez did with the Dodgers last year.
Absolutely.
People thought he was left for dead. 36 home runs, 103 RBIs, good, great batting average, OPS, and run scoring potential.
Right, there's nowhere to hide there.
Teoscar is going to fill that void this year, and that is a heavy left-handed.
Fourth?
Well, he's right-handed. Think about this: Freeman is left-handed, Ohtani is left-handed, Muncy is left-handed. You got Betts is right-handed. Teoscar's going to bat like fourth. No, yeah.
I wonder if Muncy will end up 5, behind him.
Well, Outman's there too. That's a good sleeper. Yeah. We're going to talk about him later in the podcast.
Yeah, for sure.
But Teoscar is going to have great counting stats this year. And
I agree. He drove in 93 runs last year, so I think every reason to think that he's going to.
For reference, if you look at the Fangraphs auction calculator, according to ATC projection, and you plug in, the offensive categories of your standard 5 offensive categories, and you add hits, OPS, and doubles, Teoscar Hernandez grades out as a 27th ranked outfielder with a total value of $16. Now, for perspective, that's a solid player. And he's not being overhyped. He's also kind of being given his due. So that tells me right there, he is a solid buy.
I don't think he's overhyped at all. Yeah, I think he's been just kind of under-delivered in some of the last few years, and I don't think there's really any reason to be that down on him. He's one of those guys. Next on this list, we've got Seiya Suzuki, and I do have him right below Hernandez, and the reason is, well, right now he's projected to bat second in the Cubs lineup. So I don't know if there's going to be as many RBI opportunities for Seiya Suzuki as you might like.
I'm so glad you're talking about Seiya Suzuki because I'm a high guy on him. But I've got 4 groupings of players, with him included, that I want to throw your way and I want to get your opinion on.
Okay.
This first grouping is just 2.
Okay. So,
I don't like gun to your head. Let's do... Which player tickles your fancy, Jay? Seiya Suzuki or Spencer Steer? And why?
Well, I am more keen on Spencer Steer, but that's because he's second base eligible and infield eligible all over the infield, okay? So it's kind of a loaded question. But you're talking about outfielders.
Yeah, let's take position eligibility out of the question and just talk about the hitter themselves. Which hitter do you prefer?
I would say Suzuki because I want somebody in the top 4 of their lineup. I really don't know where Steer's going to end up. He's got a lot of competition there.
He's going to be all over the place.
He might be all over the place. He's going to play all over the field, which, to be honest with you, I don't think that helps you on the hitting side when you're not entrenched in a position and can't get comfortable in your position on the field day after day. I really think that has an effect on you when you're coming to the plate every day. You're just not as settled as somebody like Suzuki who's just situated in right field. And I think Steer probably profiles to hit 5-6 or something like that, which is great if you want someone to drive in runs. I think that I like Suzuki right now because I just like I like him in the top part of the lineup to produce stats in every category.
Awesome.
I would lean towards him.
The Cubs came out and said just the other day that he's going to start the year batting second in that lineup.
Right.
Which is actually an upgrade over what people were projecting. So he's going to automatically be hitting between Nico Horner and either Cody Bellinger or Ian Happ with the other at cleanup, and then you're looking at Dansby Swanson too, hopefully having a bounce back year.
Yeah, and Swanson, has throughout his career, he's batted in the bottom of the lineup sometimes, and he's like, I don't know if there's anybody better in your 8th spot in your lineup. I mean, it's like
Atlanta line, I think Swanson's more like this is for a shortstop. Anyway, but Swanson is definitely your high floor, 20 home run, 80 run, 80 RBI guy. I think we talked about this.
Yeah, and right now he's supposed to hit 5th, I guess.
Yeah.
Right in front of Christopher Morel.
Okay. What about here's one for you, Jay.
I thought you were going to ask me about Jazz.
I am. So why take Jazz Chisholm at ADP when you can have Byron Buxton several picks later, several rounds later?
I don't think I would take Chisholm. I think I would wait for Byron Buxton. I like the power, and I just looking at Jazz Chisholm's peripherals, I don't like Jazz Chisholm's prospects for staying healthy.
Javier Baez.
I don't like this turf toe stuff and him supposed to be playing center field every day in Miami. Like this, I don't think that this is going to work out. Like
I don't either.
It's the turf toe thing. I have never forgotten that because I'm like, dude, he's not right. Nothing's been done about it. He didn't have surgery or anything.
Can we just take?
I think about injuries and I'm like, I can't stomach that. I'd rather have Buxton in the lineup when he's healthy, and I know that he's another huge injury risk. But
that's why I put these two together. But
I'm saying Buxton all day.
I would actually take Buxton.
I would wait. I'm not putting him higher in the rankings, but I would just wait.
I think I would actually take Buxton straight up over Chisholm, even if they were at the
Fair
same
enough.
ADP.
I might too.
I feel like Buxton's got louder tools.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so, if they're both max going to be healthy 100 games.
And I think, is Buxton being kept in the Premier League? I don't think we're going to get the opportunity to draft him.
Well, I know
on
he
Saturday.
was kept in the Forever League.
Oh, that's right. Maybe that's why
I don't know if he's going to be kept.
Which is interesting, right?
You are.
Somebody's got him in their top, 100 players type of thing. I mean, not that they may not have had other options.
But, he's going to start the year util only, but he's already been penciled in starting center fielder for the Twins, hitting in the 3-hole. So,
yeah, it's
within a week he'll have center field eligibility.
It's almost unfortunate that his value is tied up in that because again. How long is
it's
that?
It's an opportunity cost. This is a buying opportunity.
It is.
People look at that and his injury history, and he was buried. But he's been steadily rising in February and March up draft boards, which is where he's getting closer to where he should be.
When your coaching staff comes out and is like, dude, when this guy's on the field, he's one of the best players in baseball. Like, hey, I'm listening. Now I don't think that. You can't say that about Jazz Chisholm at the plate. Like, yes, I'm fine. I like him, but nobody's saying that. Okay, nobody's saying he's like the best hitter.
Jazz has his fan groupies.
Sure.
Those guys are like, oh, if I can just get 120 games of Jazz, I'll get me some 20 home runs, 20 steals, maybe 100 runs, and I just don't see it.
You're also going to get over 150 strikeouts.
Yeah, I think his batting average is going to potentially turn into a liability.
Yeah.
I think he's very comparable. You know what two players I see him as? The worst versions of these players, too, mind you. Not the best version.
Yeah.
I see Jazz Chisholm as a bad version of Francisco Lindor with a middling OPS in the mid 750s, and I see him very similar to how Javier Baez had some peak season with an outlier batted ball profile, and you knew he was going to regress to the norm at some point.
Yeah,
I kind of see that volatility in Jazz's profile, and it scares the hell out of me.
Yeah, it scares me too.
So, Jay, moving on from these injury risks, now we're going to have some fun. I've got a grouping of 4 young guys. These guys are all going across various formats. They're all being drafted. Some of them are being drafted really high in keeper leagues. Others are in standard redraft leagues, so just more in the mid to late rounds. But we got Wyatt Langford, Jackson Churio, Evan Carter, and Jordan Walker. Who you got and why? Wait.
If you're
What's up? What's someone's stepbrother? No, we can't do this on air. Who you gonna sleep with? Who you gonna marry? Yeah,
I mean, if you're talking about redraft leagues, I'm picking Evan Carter out of this group and followed by Jordan Walker. I mean,
So you're saying for 2024,
yes,
alone,
yes,
you think Evan Carter and Jordan Walker are going to have more productive season than
yes.
Wyatt Langford?
I just
okay.
You have enlightened me about the prospect of Wyatt Langford now, and I get it now, and I wasn't really paying that much attention before, but now I get why.
He went number 1 in the Forever League.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, in a keeper scenario, I totally agree with that. And I would like sight unseen. Basically, I would go for it too. I would do it too because I need that in my fantasy career right now. I have slipped back into my old ways of taking the old trusty veterans, paying for past production, not being willing to take a risk on these young guys. So now I'm ready to open myself up to some of this risk. But if you're talking about redraft leagues, I've got like Evan Carter, followed by Jordan Walker, who I see Jordan Walker as basically a risk and a liability, and you could maybe throw him on this list of people who look a little off balance out there playing the corner outfield spots. But he's I seem to remember talk about him basically working on his body, getting super athletic, super strong, and so I like that for him in the field and as well as at the plate.
I think you hit the hammer on the nails to what it should be, that foursome grouping ranking wise in redraft. But can I give you a little perspective on what I think about this group of 4s? I'm gonna play devil's advocate here. So when I look at Evan Carter, I see a potential for Andrew Benintendi. And when I look at Jordan Walker, I see a potential for Joe Adell.
I agree with you 100%.
So
these are not
thinking about those.
These are not shoo-ins by any stretch of the imagination.
I would actually take Jackson Churio first because I think the Brewers. He's already been given the extension. He's basically been given the center field job. He's locked in.
How much
long term?
How much money was it?
Well, they got him on a deal because they're paying him young.
Yeah.
They bought out all his arbitration here, basically. So they have,
but it's still quite a bit of money.
It is, especially for someone who's that young.
Right.
But so the power speed potential is there. It's only going to grow. But I still think, even though he's still growing as a player,
as long as he doesn't take that money and go get a child bride or something like Wander Franco, we'll be okay.
We're not.
I'm sorry.
No, don't be sorry. Look,
I mean, let that be a cautionary tale to everyone, I guess.
Yeah.
Don't go all Steven Tyler, Jerry Lee Lewis, Wander Franco.
Yeah. Wander Franco, big silence. That's bad.
But Churio,
and then I would do Wyatt Langford second because I see Mike Trout light. I see the next coming of Mike Trout in him. Maybe that's just my Mike Trout phantom boy coming out. I'm not sure it's going to be this year, but I do think he's going to get 500 plus plate appearances this year. I think he's going to break camp, and I think he's going to rotate. I think they're just going to rotate DH and corner outfield between him, Adelise Garcia, and Evan Carter.
I'm looking at Churio, and I'm trying to
the
find a hole in this game. Where
Carter
is the hole? And I know this is just minor league stats, but anyways, you were talking about Evan.
No,
Carter,
it's
but-
okay. The potential for playing. I see Evan Carter more as a 15 homer and 15 steal guy, unless he changes something about his. I just don't think he's got. I think he's got like a season or two where he's better than that. But I think eventually that's what I'm scared. But I mean, it's a solid floor. But is that really what everybody's paying for right now? I mean,
They're paying
Benintendi was pretty hyped
almost
up in
top
2018,
100.
2019.
You're making me kind of happy that I didn't have to make that decision about drafting him.
Well,
right now.
trust me, I thought
And
about it.
the Jordan Walker thing, I let him go for similar reasons. I mean,
Look,
I'm a little scared, but I'm willing to take the risk. And
He's
if
got
he falls
mammoth
to me,
potential.
yeah.
He does. I can see that dude hitting 40 home runs next year. I can see him hitting 25 this year.
Well, now you got me wanting to switch the two around.
But I could also see him hitting 205 with a 40+% strikeout rate. If you look according to the Fangraphs auction calculator, here, I'm going to look this up. I'm going to see where they got him at.
Man, I'm just looking at Churio between AA and AAA last year. 531 at bats, 150 hits, 22 homers, 29 doubles and triples, 44 steals, 283, 338, 805 OPS, 104 strikeouts, 43 walks. Man, you're making a good sell here, dude. I'm about ready to change my mind. But if I could just pass up on, now you got me wanting to pass up on Evan Carter and Jordan Walker and just wait. But you can't wait long, can you? He's gonna go off the board.
So, this is so fun looking at this stuff, Jeff.
And if you look at your list, you're following up Jordan Walker with Jorge Soler, Christian Yelich, George Springer, Nick Castellanos, Ian Happ.
Let's stop there.
love-
That's a solid veteran, vanilla floor, no upside. Take it when they come to me in the draft. But all of those guys you just listed are
safer options.
safer options and better bets in deep league because the bottom out potential is minimal.
I love.
They're
Jorge
all
Soler
gonna
this
produce.
year in deep leagues, and I just made the decision to keep him in the Premier League.
Jorge
So
Soler.
yeah.
Yeah.
I'm
Look,
just hoping for the best here.
Jorge Soler, he's not somebody who makes the most out of his power. Like, he barely hits it over the fence. His power plays in any ballpark in MLB. So even though he's playing now in Oracle Park for half of his game, he's going to hit most likely cleanup
Yes,
in
I
that
think
order.
so.
And he's still going to hit over 30 home runs because his power plays anywhere.
I think so too, and I think looking at the Giants lineup, I just feel like if guys want to go after Jorge Soler and Matt Chapman and these guys, there's gonna be some hits. There's gonna be some home runs. You know what I'm saying? If you want to be aggressive with this lineup and go after this lineup and throw strikes against these guys, I just feel like there's gonna be some balls hit out of the park. You know what I'm saying? Throw Mitch Haniger in the mix too, and we can talk about him in a little bit. But
So who else do you like from this grouping of solid bets besides Jorge Soler, Jay, and why?
I'm gonna say Nick Castellanos. I'm gonna skip over Christian Yelich and George Springer. I mean, I see them both in a similar vein. Springer, I was forced to keep him and his value and in the Premier League, and I'm kind of torn on it. He's getting older. He's 34 years old. he is kind of a depreciating asset, but at the same time, he played more games last year. He played 140 games or more last year, 600 at bats, more than he had in several years. And I like his ability to do that again. I like his ability to be a 20-20 guy maybe again. I don't know if he's going to steal that many bases. If he gets double digits, I'm happy. I think he's going to hit at least 20 homers. We're all hoping for more than that from George Springer. I love him hitting at the top of that lineup. Like, who's to say he's not going to just explode at the top of that lineup again? If he can keep himself healthy,
got to get better.
It's got to get better.
Like cohesiveness alone.
I think what you see with the Blue Jays lineup is just a lot of patience and perseverance. And at some point, they're going to push through. And they've kept this thing together for another season. And I think they've gotten better. And their rotation has gotten better. I like them to win a lot of ball games. You know, I'm not going to put money on them. Winning their division or making it to the big game, but anyway, with Yelich, it seems like a little bit more of a risk to me than just taking Castellanos and.
Well, I feel like they're very similar players to Springer too.
Yeah. And Yelich.
Yelich's back aside, he's actually stayed relatively healthy the last 2 years. So he figured something out. The problem is people continue to think of him as the 2018-2019 MVP version of himself.
Right.
Well, he's not that guy. You know who that reminds me of is Ryan Braun.
Yeah.
Ryan Braun had a few years like that, and then he regressed. But he was still Milwaukee's guy, even as his time waned. But Yelich has actually made himself. Yelich has kind of done like what Andrew McCutchen did. As he gotten older, found a way to continue to be productive and valuable to the team that you're playing on. I think it's perfectly fine around the 130 to 150 range.
Oh, absolutely. You're hoping for, he's going to steal more bases than George Springer. You're hoping for at least 20 stolen bases. You're hoping to approach the 20 homer mark. He had 34 doubles last year.
You can almost.
He struck out 140 times, but he still got 278 average, 370 on base percentage, and an OPS over 800. You look at that, and he's projected to have a higher OPS than Springer. But I like Springer better right now. I just like the lineup he's playing in, and the fact that if I'm going to have a leadoff guy and hope for some home runs and stuff, I'm going with George Springer, and that's who he's going to be for me this year. Is like a best outcome leadoff guy, because as I said in the last podcast, it's very hard to find the run scoring ability in especially in deep leagues. Like with your top picks, you're taking these monster bats. Where is your run scoring going to come from? Who's going to score 100 runs? Like for me, you need guys who can score 90 plus runs that aren't, Matt Olson, who's going to cross the plate, 110 times next year, right?
Yeah.
You've got to find your run scoring guys, and some of those guys for me, George Springer could be that guy. Brandon Nimmo could be that guy for me, and we're gonna get to him in a little bit. But
well, I'm glad you brought that up, because we're getting into a range with some guys where it's like, okay, do I take this guy because I think he's got 90 plus run potential? Do I take this guy because I think he's got 30 plus home run potential? Do I take this guy because I like his floor and I think he's going to knock Crater on me? Or do I take this guy for his upside with
Castellanos
with speed?
Castellanos had a solid season last year, so any reason to think that he's not going to do something close to that again this year?
I think he is who he is, and that whole Philadelphia Phillies team They're so cohesive. There's a reason they've been going far in the playoffs in the last
That's
couple
what
of
I'm
years.
saying. He's got swagger.
And look,
He is
I
clutch
used to
down the
dislike
stretch,
Bryce
man.
Harper a lot, but Bryce Harper has all those guys like gelling.
I agree, and I'm like a fan, dude. At this point, like I am a Bryce Harper fan, and I'm a Nick Castellanos fan. He's, you know, his confidence. It's like there's just times that it crosses the line into like this cockiness, and that's what that's what these old school baseball guys don't like. But I love the emotion. I love I love to see it at this point. I just love to see greatness. Those two guys are both great. Anyways, so Ian Happ, it's very hard to fill left field, and I would feel okay with, him as my left fielder. I don't know.
Well,
what
tell me,
else to say
would you
about
rather
Happ.
have
like you
Ian
said,
Happ or
vanilla
Lane Thomas?
is the perfect word. I would take Lane Thomas for the upside. I would definitely stick him above those guys. And Lane Thomas, correct me if I'm wrong, eligible all over the outfield.
Yes.
Which I love. The fact that you can play him in center and left is a great thing. It's sometimes guys become more valuable if you can slot them in as your center fielder. But I would take Lane for the upside all over the stat line.
Okay, so I'm going to have a little fun with you right now, Jay. While you've been talking about Lane Thomas and Ian Happ, I've been on Baseball Savant looking up the average exit velocity for batted balls. Basically, it's for every sweet spot ball you hit, what is your average exit velocity? And usually this is a category, you don't want the outliers, which would be your max exit below. You want to know, what are they sitting at when they hit the ball on the sweet spot? All right, so obviously you got Ronald Acuna at the top, okay? It's stuff like that. Shohei Ohtani, Jake Berger, Matt Olson, Juan Soto, Rafael Devers, Yandy Diaz, Julio Rodriguez, Vlad Jr., Bryce Harper. There's your top 10. It's going to get interesting, though. Michael Harris, Corey Seager, Matt Chapman, Kyle Schwarber, Austin Riley. Okay, there's some interesting... Nothing really too interesting there, except maybe Michael Harris.
Right.
But you've got your power guys, right? Marcelo Ozuna at 16. William Contreras at 17. This is what gets me. We were just talking about this guy. You know who's number 18 on this list?
Tail.
Christian Yelich. Christian Yelich is still maximizing his batted balls when
He's a big
hits,
lanky guy. He's
when
able to
he
get those
puts
arms.
the
and
barrel
barrel
of the
on
bat
ball.
on that ball. He's top 20 in the league in average exit velocity. That's insane. Hey, this is the kind of stuff you got to look at, like the stuff under the hood. So he's figuring out how to stay healthy, and if he's able to make that kind of loud contact, I think people are sleeping on Christian Yelich, to be honest.
Fair enough.
And to your credit, you said Teoscar Hernandez. He's number 20.
Oh, nice.
So he's right there. Yeah, there's a little stat I was looking up while we were talking about some vanilla guys.
So, as we go down, I'm starting to see some names that are really sticking out to me. This next little group, I'm going to name 5 more names, and I think there's a little bit of a drop off after that. Although there's another, I'm going to include this name in this list too. Eloy Jimenez, Jarren Duran, Tommy Edman. Ooh, I got to fade him down a little more. Anthony Santander, Masataka Yoshida, and I'm going to put Chas McCormick on the tail end of that list. I love McCormick right now, man.
Are you going to ask who I want and why?
Who do you want out of that group?
Say these names one more time.
Eloy Jimenez, Jarren Duran. I'm trying to make him like
It's
from
okay.
he's
Duran.
from the Dominican or something,
No, man.
It's like the CC Sabathia thing where
Yeah,
his whole career
you're
everybody thought
just
he was
saying Duran Duran.
from the Dominican. He's like,
I think it's Jarren Duran.
Yeah, Jarren Duran.
But Duran Duran.
Okay.
We gotta have fun, guys. It's early.
Santander, Masataka Yoshida, Chaz McCormick. Okay.
All right, so
I think we've got this list upside down.
yeah,
in my
but
view.
here's the thing. You could probably guess who I'm going to take. There's two guys that stand out to me in this grouping, and that's because it's Jaren Duran and Masataka Yoshida. And here's why. Jaren Duran, up until like August 1st-ish last year, was hitting for a high average. He was hitting over 300.
Yes.
He was on pace to steal a lot of bases. I'm not looking at his stats right now, but I know he ended up with over 20, but I think he was on pace to steal over 30. And then, so he was hitting leadoff for the Red Sox every day. He has that ability to have a sneaky 90 to 95 runs, 30 plus stolen base, 270 plus batting average season.
I think this season though he's gonna be hitting like an
But he
RBI
also has
spot, like fifth, which is fine.
I think he's better suited for the top of the lineup.
You think? You think that Duran doesn't end up? You think he's?
I'm not
ends up
saying.
in the bottom,
Look,
like
I can't predict what Alex Cora is going to do. Okay,
Fair enough.
Alex Cora likes to talk.
There's a lot of different things that could happen here.
He is a player's manager, and he likes to talk. That's all I'm going to say.
I mean, Tristan Casas,
Masataka
Trevor
Yoshida.
Story. Does he push his way into the top of the lineup? Right now, he's projected to hit third. Is that really how we're going to start the season with Trevor Story in the 3-hole?
Again, you're talking about getting inside Alex Cora's head.
Right.
Look, I feel like Masataka Yoshida, as far as a hitter goes, is the best hitter in that whole lineup, aside from Rafael Devers. Rafael Devers is your best hitter, period. But as far as I'm not talking about just power or speed or contactability. Just contactability, sure. But as far as putting the bat on the ball and getting on base.
Seamless transition into the MLB. I
feel like he is.
It certainly impressed me.
If it were me, I would go Jaren Duran, leadoff, Masataka Yoshida second. Problem is, if you put Rafael Devers third, you're going three lefties in a row. Because Yoshida's lefty, right? Or is he righty?
I think he's a left-handed batter.
Okay. And then Tristan Casas clean up another lefty.
He bats left and throws right. Yeah, Yoshida is
and then I would put Trevor Story fifth. The problem is then you're starting with four lefties. So you almost need a righty to sandwich. So that's probably why they got Trevor Story batting third, because your four best hitters are Duran. This is debatable, but in my opinion, Duran, Yoshida, Devers, Casas. But you can't
Duran
start
to keep that batting average up. You think we're gonna end up?
I think his biggest detriment is his ability to stay on the field. So if Duran gets, let's say, 520 plate appearances, I think he's going to be a top 100 player in fantasy. There's a hot take for you.
For you, I cannot argue with that. And for you, deep league players,
but they need a righty to sandwich in between all those lefties, which is why you might see a guy like Trevor Story hitting third.
Mm-hmm. Makes sense. And if for you, deep league players that are listening, this is important.
That's why Trevor Story is a good deep league play, though.
Absolutely. Yeah.
You can get him for basically nothing.
Yeah, absolutely. 100% value. Yeah, Masataka Yoshida is going to contribute basically in every category. And that is why I like Chaz McCormick too. I like his ability to, first of all, he's going to play every day. We're being told this year that he's now, there's been a path paved for him to be an everyday player, which he was missing. He was missing out on at bats, mainly I think because of Mauricio Dubon and Dusty Baker wanting to get him in the lineup as often as possible. And I can understand why, but McCormick is, I like his ability to contribute in basically every category.
You've always been the McCormick guy, Jay.
Well, last year I realized the potential and I went after him, but it was like I traded for him too early, and it was like you couldn't predict the playing time, and he was like missing out on playing time. He dealt with some injury, and then as the second half went along, he just became the great player that I like knew he was going to be. I just couldn't wait on him. And now it's like I'm looking for a full season from him. I'm excited. I think Joel might be keeping him, by the way, so he may not be available in Saturday's draft, by the way.
Gotcha. All right,
I'm
Jay.
sad about that.
Well, we got to keep going down the list. Do you mind if I rattle off about 10 names and then...
Oh, can we talk about Santander for just a second?
Yeah, absolutely.
Do you like this guy? I love this guy.
Tell me about it. Tell me why you like Anti's
because
there.
I like his potential for hitting 30 home runs and keeping his batting average up. I mean...
You think he's maybe one of those veterans, though, that might be on the out with all these prospects coming up from Baltimore?
I don't know. That's what I'm trying to predict now.
I feel like if he does a job, he's fine. And I feel like O'Hearn and Mountcastle have the most to lose.
I know. It's like I like Ryan O'Hearn, and it's like there's just
and
nowhere.
Cedric Mullins, who's another guy that's just coming down this list. I'm not a huge fan of.
Well,
but
I can
Santander,
understand why, but right now, it's looking like I see. And then you look at these projected lineups, and they got Ryan O'Hearn at first base in the projected lineup, and Mountcastle DHing. I mean, is this where we end up? Is it? And it is. I mean, I do think that Mullins is gonna start at the top of the lineup because who's gonna take that spot? He could lose that spot for sure. But right now, it's looking like Mullins, Rushman, Henderson, Santander at the top of the lineup. Who's going to push him out first?
Push Santander out? No, I think as far as the Baltimore
he's going to
landscape
stay in
goes,
an RBI spot.
Yeah.
4 or 5.
I think O'Hearn and Mullins are the first guys out. And Colton Cowser. Oh God.
Yeah, Colton Cowser.
We gotta wait.
I mean, where's his ADP now? And it's rising probably right now. I think everybody's getting.
I kept him, by the way,
aware
as
of what
as an NA.
Yeah, I think everybody's becoming aware of what you're touching on right now. The fact that there's going to be a way eligible for all outfield soon.
And Kobe Mayo too, who that was one of the hardest cuts. It's the hardest NA cut I've ever had to make in this league. For those listening, NA is minor league eligibility for the formats we play in. They're not always minor league players. Sometimes they're just players that aren't on rosters at a certain point. But in this other league that we play in, we're able to keep a couple minor league players. And I had to choose between Colton Cowser, Jared Jones, Kobe Mayo, and Jackson Jobe.
Anyways, keep going.
Cutting Kobe Mayo and Jackson Jobe was rough. But I think Colton Cowser is going to win a job. I think he's going to break camp with the Orioles. And I think Jared Jones, this is going into pitching here, but yeah, I think he's going to be up soon if he doesn't break camp too. So,
Santander in his major league career, 248 average, 307 on base percentage, 766 OPS. So,
that's the thing. It's the middling average and middling OPS,
right?
But he volumes his way.
Lack of speed. Because you could have a bunch of middling guys that steal 15 to 20 bases, and all of a sudden you're talking about a top 100.
Here's one
verge
for you.
Of a top 100 player. He did
did
steal 5 bases last year.
Yeah, and that's not nothing.
That's not nothing.
Look,
if you get a full lineup of guys that are approaching double-digit steals, that means a lot, I think.
I'm going to use this as an example, Jay. I'm going to take your affection for Anthony Santander and use it as an example to why you should not draft Spencer Steer early. What's the difference, aside from position eligibility, what's the difference between those two hitters?
Not much. I think they're going to have a similar batting average. I think it's your hope. If Spencer
The counting
Steer
stats are going to be the same.
stays good, then 250 is what you're looking for. It's not going to be.
They both
25
volume
points
their
higher
way
than
to
that, right.
20
Exactly.
to 25 home runs and 80 to 90 RBIs.
Yeah, I just like the infield. I like the second base eligibility. I wish I could have him and slot him at second base. And I consider, Santander a first baseman in fantasy as much as a right fielder, that is where he played, I think, the majority of the time. But, God, I was just sitting here dreaming about, and I talked about this last year, but I just would love to see Ryan Mountcastle in a Cubs uniform hitting in Wrigley Field.
Well,
God, I would love to see that.
Cubs have.
But now it's getting,
He's right-handed. He
they're
was
filling out
left-handed.
their
I'd say
roster. Yeah.
And they are. They're not going to pay. They are like, last I checked, $3 million below the luxury tax threshold.
They paid Bellinger, and now
and you got to have some flexibility for in-season maneuvering. So
Right.
I think, you're not going to see another big signing with the Cubs. But anyway, that's a good point. Santander is a very valuable player in deep leagues, so people sleep on, and usually you get him as a good value.
Yeah. If you're getting him around like 150 or something like that, that's a great value.
Yeah.
I'll take that all day.
So now I
Especially
think
when
we're
you look
getting
down this list
to an area where we got some gold and some landmines. So gold and landmines. So we got Stephen Kwan, TJ Friedel, Riley Green, Jung-Hoo Lee, Esteury Ruiz, Cedric Mullins, Parker Meadows, Christopher Morel, James Outman. Who you got? Who you avoiding, and why?
So, TJ Friedel is something of a like Chaz McCormick for me because he's 28 years old. So he's kind of like an older player. I mean, not older, but you know what I'm saying.
Yeah.
He's burgeoning at an older age than some of these other guys. And the minor league profile, he's got a great on base percentage. I like that. I like the walk to strikeout ratio with him, and I think that could get even better. I mean, if TJ Friedel, like last year, he had 47 walks and 90 strikeouts in 488 at bats. So project that out to an almost 600 at bat season. I like that. You know what I'm saying? If he can take his walks and get on base and last year he had a 352.
How many steals
percentage.
did he have last year?
27.
Okay, so here's the thing.
And caught 6 times, so pretty good, man.
Yeah.
Pretty good.
This is my thing with TJ Friedel. Cincinnati's lineup, even though Noelvi Marte has been banned and that kind of clears up a bit of a logjam.
I think Friedel has flown under the radar until now, and now we're talking about him as being drafted in all fantasy leagues, right? And
yes.
I would not have thought of him that way at all at the beginning of last season. He was flying under the radar, and here we are now. We're talking about him in the top 200.
Yeah, that's the
What
thing.
do you make of
top 200. This is what I make of it. So according to the Fangraphs auction calculator with ATC, he is the 50th ranked outfielder on the board.
Wow.
Customized to our league's deep league setting. Now,
wow.
here's my problem. His average draft position is pick 160. We already know that there's a lot of flexibility and fluidness in the Cincinnati lineup. So I don't think it's a lock that he's hitting leadoff
No.
all the time.
Not at all.
If you look at his contribution to stat by stat, the only stat where he's a positive in is stolen bases. If he's not hitting leadoff every day or most days, does he have a hard time stealing 27 bases again? Because I feel like people run in all places of the lineup, but I don't feel like they run as much when you hit more in the lower part of the order or even the lower middle. Like let's say he goes 6-7, and he turns into more of a drive the guys in as opposed to get on base, take the next base. So my thing is if when he was being drafted outside the top 200, I think he was a great value. I'm worried that his cost is too high for what he's going to provide your team. And if his stolen bases dip at all, he becomes a net negative in my mind.
And like you said, Jonathan India used to be, when in the lineup, he was solidified as the Reds' number 2 hitter. And I know this is a different Reds team that we're talking about.
No, but it's a good example.
And
what happened
we talked
to him
about last year with Ellie De La Cruz, trying to justify his ADP. We were like, this guy could hit 8th in the lineup potentially in some scenarios, right? And I think that we're past that now.
Yeah.
But that pushes other people to the bottom. You also got guys like Will Benson who are going to bat. I guess right now he's projected about 7th. They've got him, and they've got Christian Encarnacion Strand 8th, and Tyler Stevenson 9th, which is great. I think that's a great 9th hitter. But I'm just saying, you got Benson in the middle of that as he's kind of your number 3 and your bottom half of your order. Who you want TJ Friedel in the top 200, or you want to take Will Benson in the
here's another scary thing.
round?
A lot of managers like to have double leadoff hitters, meaning you get that guy like the Braves do with Michael Harris, Ronald Acuna.
Yes.
So what's not to say that? Good morning. What's not to say that TJ Friedel doesn't go into the 9-hole and act as the second leadoff guy?
Does McLean move up to 1?
I don't know.
I think Jonathan India is much more of a 2, but anyways, I know we're, picking apart their lineup, but for me, this is of course exciting. I love, following the Reds and definitely the Cubs as well.
So moving on, there's some other guys we listed here besides TJ Friedel.
I mean, Stephen Kwan, I really have no interest in, and I don't know. Do you want to try to sell me on him? Because
Stephen Kwan is very similar to Masataka Yoshida. Very contact-oriented approach hitter. If you're looking for batting average later, and that can fill an outfield spot. Let's say you've got a guy like Kyle Schwarber, and you didn't get a guy like Luis Arias. Maybe you've got a spot in your DH where you want to soften the blow for his batting average. You might be able to afford to take a guy like Stephen Kwan. But, yeah, it's definitely going to be contextualized to your team and your roster.
I mean, I like the 2022 season of, a 298 average and 373 on base. And
I think his average is
more
gonna come
walks than strikeouts.
Yeah.
Holy crap. 62 walks and 60 strikeouts in that season. So, and he did something fairly similar in 2023. Not quite as impressive, but
so
over 600. I mean, 638 at bats. I mean, that's something you got to think about too when you're getting down to this. ADP is you get involved. You need volume, so you need outfield volume. So you don't want to. I'm not going to take someone who's not going to get even 500 at bats probably over him. So that's.
I got 5 center fielders for you. I want to know which 2 you favor out of this grouping. Esteury Ruiz, Cedric Mullins, Jung-Hoo Lee, Brandon Nimmo, and Parker Meadows.
I like Nimmo. I'm gonna say Cedric Mullins, like I really like am still holding out and wanting to see hopefully the old Cedric Mullins reappear, and I think there's a possibility for that. I don't like the leg injuries, you know. I think he still is gonna have speed and steal bases. I don't like it for his approach at the plate. You know what I'm saying? Like I want to see him healthy with his legs under him. I mean, I would throw Christopher Morel into that list.
He's not a center fielder, though.
He's not center field eligible?
Well, I think he's first in corner outfield, isn't he?
Oh.
Is he center field, though? Anyway, we are talking about outfielders. Christopher Morel makes loud contact. He's kind of a clutch
center
player.
Field and right field and second base eligible. He is a clutch player. I like the on base percentage. I like him to kind of contribute in all categories. So I've got my eye on him. Chad kind of woke me up to this potential here for him to be explosive in that Cubs lineup this year, you know? I'm sure he's probably more... Well, I don't know. I see him as valuable both as a second baseman and as a center fielder. So, and this, as you said, this might be his last year of center field eligibility, and that's fine because I don't see him as he's not a keeper in either one of these leagues. But anyways, Parker Meadows.
I purposely bumped him up a lot because I want to talk about Parker Meadows.
Yeah, it's like I'm not ready to pull the trigger on Parker Meadows.
I feel like this is a sneaky 90-run, solid batting average guy with maybe like 15 pop that you can get really late. And I feel like he's young.
Yeah, he
and
has.
It looks like he's got the center field.
125 major league at bats right now.
He got the center field job. It looks like they're going to bat him leadoff. We're not looking for a home run here, so you don't need to worry about the park. There's room to hit lots of doubles in that ballpark.
In Double A and Triple A over the last 2 seasons, he's had an on-base percentage of about 340. So, I mean, that's good. Before that, in the lower levels, he was, rookie ball. In the first season, he had 377 on base, and then the on base went below 300 for a couple of years there in A-ball. But I don't know. I mean, I hear you, and you need that somewhere. You need to run scoring capability somewhere, and obviously center field is one of the places you can maybe get that, and maybe in left field. I'm always looking for power in left field. I'm always looking for this elite left fielder, and I never have one. So really, I need to find someone like Brandon Nimmo to put in left field. Left field is like so hard to fill, in my opinion. I just struggle with it, and I say that, and I still like buy this idea because I'm like, if I think about my best seasons, I always had a good one. Always had one that I felt really good about, you know? It's the linchpin. It really is.
So, this is fun, Jed, because as we go through these, it's obvious, like, I feel like I value more the contact guys where you're valuing more the power guys. But it's also, this is what
I always do have the affinity for power, but I like Brandon Nimmo because he brings basically everything to the table. He brings a career 380 on base percentage and 828 OPS to the table. Okay, and if anybody doubted it, his ability to be the leadoff guy, and without question, just look at what he did last season, the last 2 seasons. Like last year, he hit 24 homers, 36 doubles and triples. He doesn't steal bases, but he doesn't need to, in my opinion. I would be happy with him as my left fielder. I'd center field too, but...
So, Anything else you want to say about any of these guys that we brought up if we move on to the next grouping of players?
I mean, Jung Hoo Lee, I'm not real, I don't have much to say about. I don't really know his profile off the top of my head. I know that Estuary Ruiz, in our previous draft, I considered taking him. I considered taking him around his ADP, but I decided, you know what? I'm waiting. I'm getting steals from Michael Garcia. I'm getting steals from other places, and I don't want this guy in my offensive lineup. I'm not falling for
an
it.
asset or liability, depending on what you got going on. I think
I
more
was like,
times
I'm
than
not
not, it'll
taking
probably be
it.
a liability.
I want a more balanced profile in my lineup every day. I think he's like it's like having that steals guys, like he's kind of like another pitcher. It's kind of like the pitchers of hitters, like Tommy Edman. I see in a similar. I would love to have him to bring in off the bench and fill in and give me some runs and some stolen bases. And with Edman, you're hoping for some power, which I don't know. The power might be gone. And you actually have Tommy Edman right around this. You actually had him higher on your list. I would put him down with the players that we're talking about now or about to talk about. But you guys don't know out there, Tommy Edman still recovering from his wrist surgery, trying to make progress from both sides of the plate as he's a switch hitter. And he's not coming along as quickly as we would have hoped right now. So, he's not going to be ready for opening day. And what power he had, I'm scared, might be gone. And I'm just, I was excited about him coming back and, having a good spot in that lineup and being the player I always hope for him to be. But right now, man,
complex relationship between Jay and Tommy Edman.
I'm out on him as a top 200 player. If he falls to me, I'm going to take him, and he can be my utility guy or, second baseman, but.
All right, so how do you feel about going through the rest of this list in groupings of 3? And
okay.
Is that okay?
You talking about Kerry Carpenter, Alex Verdugo, and
on.
Newbar?
Yeah, on. So, this first group in 3 we got here. Kerry Carpenter, Alex Verdugo, Lars Newbar.
I'm starting to get excited about Kerry Carpenter, and,
he's going to be in a good RBI spot.
Yeah, absolutely. I saw Daniel draft him in the last draft, and I thought, there is something here. There's something special here. And there is.
There's a guy in the next grouping that I see is similar to him.
And, I think you're hoping for him to be this power presence, right fielder type guy. I would love to have him in left field because I've got other right field options. So, man, I would love to have Kerry Carpenter as my left fielder right now. So...
Yeah. I definitely the potential for 80 to 90 RBIs with 20 home runs.
He's 26 years old. We haven't seen the best of him yet in the major leagues. I mean, last year was good, right? 418 at bats, 17 doubles, 20 homers, 64 ribbies, 6 stolen bases and never caught, 32 walks. 115 strikeouts. Can we get those strikeouts down a little bit? What did he do in the minors as far as that goes? Oh, he didn't strike out much in the minors. Also didn't take tons of walks, but he had a couple seasons with a really high on-base percentage and OPS over 1,000 in 2022 between AA and AAA. So I'm starting to see the potential with Kerry Carpenter. So my eyes are being open. I like him better than these other 2 guys in this grouping.
Well, Newbar's hurt right now.
Yeah.
But I like Verdugo in right field in Yankee Stadium.
If I'm looking for, like, Newbar, I think they want him to be the leadoff hitter eventually, right? I mean, that's what we're trying to get to?
So it's
or
funny.
3? Is he gonna be the
the
3
Cardinals
guy?
lineup is like an oxymoron to me because, like, if you look at it on paper, you have a bunch of
Yeah.
okay. Look,
Is he
this
really
is
a
coming from somebody
three-hole
who's not an
hitter?
ageist. I'm not an ageist, okay. But you have a bunch of old guys and a bunch of young guys, and not much in between. So you got your Nolan Arenado, Paul Goldschmidt, Wilson Contreras can fit that bill. There's some other veterans there too. Especially all their pitchers are older too. But then you got guys like Lars Nootbaar, Jordan Walker.
It's like they want Newbar to be their leadoff, but he doesn't steal bases.
I
Or he
think
didn't
they
in the
want him
minors.
to be their three.
They want him to be their 3-hole hitter, but he doesn't hit home runs. And I mean, career wise, I mean, he's got a good, on base percentage and OPS approaching 800. So I don't know. I guess I get it. Last season he took a lot of walks. I love this. I love the
guys that can take a
competent,
walk.
patient, intelligent hitters. Like I love it. But with him, I'm not feeling it as like I don't want him to be my leadoff hitter right now. I just don't. I need to see more. I need to see where he slots in the lineup. I need to see him healthy.
Okay. And for the record, don't need to spend much time, but Alex Verdugo, are you out on him?
I think right now I'm out on Alex Verdugo. I just want more. I want more power wise and just all over the board. I think at this point than what he can offer me.
So
like,
Jay, there's a common theme in what you're saying. It's just power, and more.
It is. I mean, I feel you can never have enough hitting and you can never have enough power. And why would you draft him when you can wait and
So
maybe Tyler O'Neill.
I was gonna say this
going
next
to
group
the
of
next
3.
Group. I mean,
We got Tyler O'Neill, Jake
I'm
Fraley,
definitely
and
taking
Jack
him.
Sawinski.
yeah. Talk about power. Fraley's out for me. He's last on this list.
Yeah.
He's a platoon player.
It's one of those players, like, he could have a direct impact on TJ Friedel value.
He could, and they tried. And the fans were screaming for it last year when Jake Fraley was hot. They wanted him in the lineup every day, and the Reds are like, guys, he's a platoon player. I'm sorry, but we have to play the matchups. We can't put him out there every day. It's just not who he is. And so, as much as I like him, and last year I was like, when you miss out on a guy like that, when he gets taken off the free agent market and he's helping somebody's team, he's carrying your team. When Jake Fraley's doing that, you're like, oh my God, I'm missing out. It hurts. It hurt. Like when I almost was able to pick him up when he was hurt, and I knew I should, and I just didn't have the roster space. And then Luke got to take advantage of that. I was just so jealous, But I'm not drafting this guy over these other 2 guys.
Of this trio,
I'm not drafting him, period.
I know
Okay?
O'Neill's got the biggest, like, muscular power raw, but Jack Sawinski, don't sleep on that guy. He's going to hit on a prime position in the top half of the Pirates lineup. And if you look on some of these StatCast websites, Baseball Savant, Fangraphs, he makes the most of his contact. He's really good at putting the barrel of the bat on the ball, and he makes loud contact when he makes contact. And I think Sawinski is one of those guys who I could see him having a really good season, and the Pirates, when they start losing, trade him for something at the deadline because,
Yeah, I would love to have him in left field or center field on my
and
lineup.
isn't he, correct me if I'm wrong, but isn't he
He's
eligible?
all over the outfield.
Yeah.
Pretty sure.
Yeah.
Pretty sure he's in every position. And O'Neill, speaking of injuries and everything, I think I remember reading about him trying to get himself right, more durable, more flexible. I think he's trying to not. He's the dude is obsessed with lifting weights, and I think he's realizing he's paid to be a professional baseball player, and so he may have to go down on some of the heavy sets and start getting a little more flexible.
Or he's going to be a sloppy dick. Sorry.
No, he's good in the outfield. He's good.
No, what I'm saying though is guys who have bodies built like that have a harder time moving from point A to point B, and you need that agility to be able to play those positions long term.
Yeah,
this
sure.
is why I cringe
so
every
far in
year
his
that
career,
Aaron
he's
Judge
been
is listed as the Yankees
outfielder.
center fielder, because it just makes me wonder, what year is the year you start talking about putting him at first base?
Well, I would say
And
the year that
prolonging
he
his-
starts having the toe injury, which was last year going into this year. So I think you need to start thinking about it right now. That's what I
I
would
think
say.
they should have been thinking about
I think
that.
they should have been thinking about it
I
before.
think ultimately Giancarlo Stanton could have been more if they would have just
Is it
said
turf toe? Is that what Aaron Judge has? And it's just this is a managing thing. I don't know that there's anything that they can do. He can't have surgery. There's no easy fix for this.
No.
I think it's like a turf toe thing, right? I mean, this is not good. This is another thing
It's
for the
something
Yankees
that's going to be chronic that he has to deal with the rest of his career.
Exactly.
And
So, you know, it's not like I'm like out on Aaron Judge, but like you're saying, they may have to figure out a way forward for this guy. And I don't know if it's in center field.
yeah.
Like you said, bringing him to first base. You know, and it's like it doesn't even take that much for other guys like Bryce Harper to end up here. It wasn't really injuries in terms of playing the field for Bryce Harper, was it? I mean, we know he had a throwing injury.
It was team contact. He had
team context.
Yeah. He had.
What does it take for them to do that for?
Well, first of all, I think it
Aaron
takes
Judge?
level-headed. Yeah, we're not going to get into this. I think it's a culture thing, and I feel like the Yankees have a culture problem because I feel like they've been in an identity crisis. I'm sorry, this is going to be a little rant here, guys.
Hey, man,
but,
you know I love.
But we just put the tombstone on IU basketball season last night, and it's been a horrible season. And I feel like the New York Yankees have a culture problem very similar to the way IU basketball has a culture problem. They were so good for so long that the fan base had such high expectations that when they couldn't live up to it, they've never been able to reclaim those lofty heights again.
And is
the
that why
reason
they're
is
bringing in guys like Alex
left and
Verdugo?
right. Yeah. Well, no, the Yankees are doing this because they
they
used
have
to be
a
the
culture
team that
problem, so
would
they
go out
bring in-
and spend. Who's the top 5 free agents? Fine. We're going to outbid everybody and we'll just pay them all. They're coming on. The Yankees used to be that team that didn't care, how much money they were spending. Take the way I remember them as a kid, take Steve Cohen from the Mets and put him on the Dodgers.
Meanwhile,
and
their
just
best
see how much money they
prospects have
spend.
to wait and have their confidence killed.
So I think the Yankees have had a culture problem for a while. I think it's getting better.
Yeah.
Because they're different now. I feel like they've given their prospect time. Now they got Jason Dominguez and Austin Wells, and they traded a lot of the pitchers in the Juan Soto deal, but they were bringing up.
What about Peraza?
Huh? Yeah, you got Alcibiades Peraza, Cabrera. They have guys. It's just. Yeah. Anyways, we're going way off topic here. So back.
Hey man, it's like we said with the deep leagues, for me feeling all of this out is very important, and it's going to continue to develop as the season goes along. This is not the last time we're going to be talking about this because inevitably there will be
Jason
injuries.
Dominguez is going to come back, and Aaron Judge and Alex Verdugo and.
Yeah,
Who
what
they
happens
got
when
playing
Judge
left
can't
field?
play the field every day? What happens when
Well, that's what I'm saying.
LeMahieu doesn't work out at the top of the lineup? What happens when
The conversation should have been had a while ago to make sure, that there's room for all of these guys. Oh, Soto. They got Juan Soto, Aaron Judge, Alex Verdugo, and then at DH, your logjam, because right now Stanton doesn't even have a job, I don't think, right? Is he their DH or is there
right
somebody
now
else?
he's projected
I
to
feel
bat
like-
six as the DH, but
Okay.
really is that,
Oh, when Dominguez comes back.
right.
You got
Exactly.
Soto, Judge, Verdugo in the field.
Yeah.
What are you going to do? You're going to have him split at bats with Stanton at DH? I don't think that's a great idea. You're going to stunt one's development, and you're not going to maximize anything with Stanton.
Right, and you've got LeMahieu, who I love DJ LeMahieu, but he was DHing when he wasn't playing field a lot. So it's like he's out there every day, and he's backs up every position in the infield. Anyways,
So we got some young guys coming up here. I kind of want to lump these guys together, if it's okay, Jay.
Yeah.
Colton Cowser, Jason Dominguez, Dylan Cruz, James Wood, Henry Davis.
now I lean on you for the minor league profiles as much as I look at these guys, and now it's like when I look at a player, it's the first thing I do. But obviously, Henry Davis stands out to me as somebody who I can slot in right field, and hoping to get some power out of him, hoping for catcher eligibility at some point in the season. So that would make him quite valuable if that were to happen. So, when you talk about that potential, and there's a couple guys with that potential, we can talk about Dalton Varsho later, but I don't think he's gonna be catching all. You and I both agreed we're not real high on him.
Yeah, I'm not
but
high on him. Hey, you
I
know
don't
who I
I
am
don't know what
high
to
on?
say about these guys minor league
I'm
profiles.
really high on Colton Cowser. I feel
I think everybody's coming around to this, like we said a little bit ago.
I feel like he is this year's James Outman. What James Outman was for the Dodgers last year is going to be Colton
is
Cowser.
somebody
this
getting
year.
traded in Baltimore? You can't
They have to.
They have to.
They have
you can't
to.
have the scenario you're talking about without somebody has to go.
Yeah.
You can't.
Well, I think
can't
he's going to.
sit.
I think what you're going to see is some of these veterans start sitting because they cannot keep holding back some
what
of
I'm
these
saying.
prospects,
You either-
and they're going to force management's hands. That's what's going to happen, in my opinion. I think Colton Cowser is one of them. But
Between all the minor leagues in 2022, Colton Cowser had a 406 on base percentage.
Yeah,
874 OPS.
just look at that freaking AAA team that won the whatever lead is that they play in. I don't know if it's the International League or what.
Yeah,
but
yeah. That's right.
They had Colton Cowser, Kobe Mayo, Heston Kiersad, Jackson Holiday. Well, Joey Ortiz has since been traded to the Brewers. He was on that team.
And
All
Cowser had
those
a
guys were on.
937
Yeah,
OPS.
yeah, all those guys were on a AAA team together. You spread all those guys out, they were all up in the big leagues last year. But because they were all in Baltimore, you had this super quad A team of these prospects that just have nowhere to go.
He had 36 extra base hits and 323 at bats during that season.
Don't tell me, he hits left-handed too, so that park isn't going to hinder his power. They moved the field back in left field, but they didn't move it back in right field.
Oh man, I can't wait to watch that team play this year.
I also think Jason Dominguez is going to be very valuable when he comes mid-year. And then if you look at some of these other guys, who did I say? I said Cowser, Dominguez, Henry Davis you talked about.
I do think that.
Oh, Cruz and Woods.
I think for me it's important to, looking at this list, that I need to pick out one or two of these guys to really hard target in drafts, because to me, I want one of these guys who, when they arrive, can do that versus someone an established player around this region who isn't gonna get as many at bats. I'd rather
That's why
wait on
James
somebody.
Outman was such a good find for Chuck last year. You see, when you have the ability to keep a minor league player, it's kind of like a cheat code. If you keep a minor league player because he is a great prospect, that's one thing. Another way to keep a minor league player is you keep him because you think he's very close to being called up or that he's going to win a job out of spring training. And if there's a need, at least you're getting that floor of production, and it's a free draft pick, basically. So that's what I
been a
think
weakness
Colton
for
Cowser
me.
is going to do.
It's been a
this
weakness
year.
for me with drafts. You know, that's what I'm saying. I've got to identify some of these guys.
Who did you keep as your minor league players?
No, they're terrible.
Who did you keep, Jay?
Right now, I've got Oscar Colas, who
You
just
kept
got
him?
optioned to AAA. Well, I didn't really have any other options,
Okay.
so it was kind of just I'm basically just putting it off, and during the 2023 season, I'm gonna try to find a legitimate minor league option. You know, I don't have that for my team, and then the other one is Julio Urias, who
God.
is NA eligible in our league, and I'm just gonna have to ride this thing out and see what happens. He's probably gonna get suspended for an entire year, and then I don't even know what I'm gonna do. We'll see, but
I think that's an
I
easy
have-
job for you, Jay. I don't think he's.
I
sure.
I have
you-
to
you
wait
want
and see what
notification.
happens, and I mean, it's like from a moral standpoint, I'm just gonna be I'm Bill Belichick with the Patriots. Okay,
Yeah.
I'm just like all I care about is winning. Okay, I can't be the moral judge. I can't be Moses coming down from the mountain and judging
Hey, no,
these guys.
no,
Like,
look,
I just
none of
have
us
to
are.
focus on winning. But at the same time, it comes into play with other people that don't even have a job, like, Mike Clevenger. I'm like, okay, I'm taking him off of my draft board. Just
Hey,
have to wait and see with this guy.
I got some
He
fun
keep himself
outfield
out of trouble
options
and
for
get himself
you.
a job.
These are some deep sleepers.
Can you believe when guys like that decline their option?
Clevenger?
Yeah, he could have made like $10 million this season.
Well, there's a few guys that did that this year. Blake Snell did that. I mean, no, but there was a smaller. Who am I thinking of that did that? That declined an option for more money and almost didn't make it up on the market. Yeah,
There's a couple
Snell-
guys, yeah. Yeah.
Snell was a big one.
So,
Brian De La Cruz, Brenton Doyle, Doyle Rules, and Jared Kelnick are some deep sleepers in the outfield. These I would feel comfortable with these guys as bench bats, but in a pinch, these guys are multi-position eligibility in the outfield if you play in leagues that specify a left fielder, center fielder, or right field.
yeah. I'm
And
coming back
De La
around with
Cruz,
De La Cruz.
Kelnick both have potential 25 home run power. And Brenton Doyle, if this guy can cut his strikeout rate down just to 30%, he's got the potential in that Rockies lineup to hit 15 home runs and steal 30 bases.
Did you hear about the Braves bringing back Adam Duvall?
Adam Duvall, and that really Kelnick's someone that takes a hit.
I know. I'm really
Now you got a platoon situation.
Yeah, I'm really kind of saddened by this, and
Kelnick's a left-handed hitter, right? So you platoon him with Duvall's right-handed bat in left field. Yeah.
So, and I'm gonna be honest. Like, I had some right after the draft, our last league. There was some trade interest in Jerry Kelenic, and I did consider it, and I almost like now that news came out, I was like, maybe I should have just traded him as soon as like when his value is like within the top 200 for somebody, Daniel was interested, and maybe I could have pulled out a Shane Bieber or a Carlos Rodon out of that deal. And now I'm thinking, maybe I should have done it. But you know what? I'm going to be patient with Kelnick. I'm going to wait and see and hope that when he's in the lineup, he's very valuable. Because why wouldn't he be, right? But, and then I go and look at you look at the platoon splits, and then you realize, okay, So here's what we have is a platoon player who hits 181 against left-handed pitching and doesn't have a good batting average against right-handed pitching either. So now I'm getting really scared. But you know what? After what he did last season, I want to see some more with him on my bench. You know what I'm saying? I want to see some more with him on my roster.
I think
I'm just looking
the Braves did what you knew they were going to do all along, is just wait the market out and find a platoon mate for Kelenic. Because you knew that they were not going to just leave
It was
left
all
field
smoke
to
and mirrors.
him all to himself. That was just too much. That would be too much of a gift given what he's done. Yeah, I got a bunch of these guys. I got a grouping of players, a bunch of them here, that I would love as a fantasy manager in a deep league to have these guys as bench bats, because most of these guys are multi-position eligible. We're all eligible in the outfield. Some of them have infield eligibility too.
Yes.
We got guys that can hit for a high average. We got guys with a little bit of pop, guys with a little bit of speed.
Yep.
You got guys that have like 3-4 positions that they're eligible at. So I'm just going to name them, and we'll just touch on them a little bit if you want. Jeff McNeil, Whit Merrifield, Luis Rengifo, Mauricio Dubon, Zach McKinstry, Brendan Donovan. I almost said Landon Donovan. Willie Castro, and even Chris Bryant. I'll stop there.
Oh, well, I think that's a good stopping point, because I think this is the end of the line here as far as outfielders that you're going to want to draft. And you got to feel good if you can draft some of these guys, especially at the top of this list. You got the former batting champ, Jeff McNeil, who the concern I like McNeil. I'm really heavily considering drafting him this year. The problem is, one of the problems is, he has an elbow injury that showed up late last season, which I know doesn't always affect people as far as hitting, but I'm a little concerned here because he had, I think it was it a partially torn UCL? And we're just resting in the offseason and hoping that this gets better.
Like a year.
Now, what happens if... So I'm scared. And so it's giving me pause and caution when considering drafting him. But I would love to have him as a left field option. And I feel similarly about Merrifield.
Yes.
Merrifield.
Yes.
I cannot believe that people were sleeping so much on this guy. And they really thought that he was going to come to Toronto and not get any playing time. And I understand it started off that way. But he's had like over 600 at-bats.
He's a consummate clubhouse guy.
That too.
He really is. And
who's not going to feel
his
good
work
about...
ethic alone is going to earn him more bats. And with this veteran pedigree, like I second what you're saying. I love Whit Merrifield. Like I acquired him last year.
With all the playing time concerns, he got over 600 at bats.
Yeah, he was a super utility player for me last year.
Yeah.
And I loved it. Absolutely. Second base and outfield eligible.
Rengifo. I love Rengifo.
He's got some stolen base upside too.
He does. He's got some power and some stolen base upside.
With Ohtani gone, they're going to lean on him more.
I like the aggressiveness at the plate from him. I don't know about the Angels lineup. It's just I'm just tired of...
It's what it always has been. It's Trout and everybody else.
I was expecting a lot from Rengifo last season, and he kind of let me down, and so I just have lowered my expectations a lot. And I don't know. I just... And for that whole lineup, because it's like I'm not going to have the world of expectations for him and Brandon Drury and the rest of the Angels lineup. I'm just going to... I'm in wait-and-see mode with them and see what pops up. So
that's fair. How do you feel about guys like Willie Castro, who can play like 4 positions, and Brendan Donovan?
Yeah, Castro is eligible
and
all
Zach
over the
McKinstry.
field.
Zach McKinstry is too.
You know what? The thing about Donovan is too that I realized looking at last season's stats, he was so much better than Tommy Edman in the with statistics in the leadoff spot. I mean, so much better. And it's as much as I was like not real high on Donovan, you have to understand at this point that, dude, Tommy Edmonds is just not good enough to be their leadoff hitter right now. As much as I like him, Donovan's OPS and batting average were so much, and on base so much better. Like on base, like Tommy Edmonds was around 300, Donovan's was around 350. So, you know, if Nootbaar is not the leadoff guy, Donovan more than likely will be. So you gotta like that, and he's eligible all over the field, as is Castro.
You know, to wrap this up here, Jay, like, we can dream of a scenario where Chris Bryant comes back to fantasy relevance.
Yes.
But I think we'd be doing ourselves a disservice to talk about it.
Well, and I think that at the end of last season, I was thinking that he might be relevant again, but as we're getting to draft season, we're realizing that the consensus is we're way outside the top 200.
We're way outside the top 300.
Right.
Yeah. We're around ADP 400 now, guys.
That's
So
insane, though.
That's
Like,
what I'm saying. This is how
it's
deep in
getting
deep
to the
leagues
point,
outfield
of
is.
insanity, though, where it's like, well, of course you got to take a flyer on this guy.
So
in some league,
Max Kepler is like bottom of the barrel, last ditch chance.
that's the way I see
Some like potential for a 2020 season, but I can never pull the trigger on this guy. And then after him, we run up this list with a couple of young guys who
it. You know, Castro,
are very exciting.
by the way, wasn't really given the opportunity to steal bases in the major leagues all that much until this last season, and then he went off and stole 30
Well, the rule
bases.
change has affected that
Yeah,
too.
yeah.
You know, teams starting like, okay, you're going to change rules. We're going to take advantage. Look for some of those Rays players having a particular steal this year because they've come out in the public and said they're going to run more. Speaking of running, have you heard of this prospect for the Cardinals who's trying like hell to break camp and defy the odds? Victor Scott,
Yes,
the center fielder.
I'm hearing
He's
more
kind
now.
of a contact slap hitter, but he's got a little bit of pop, and they say his plate discipline's better than Esteury Ruiz, and he stole 94 bases in the minor leagues last year. And then there's another guy, similar mold with the Red Sox, and Cedar Rafaela, who they love in-house and want to get him more. But, you know, with Jaron Duran and Willie Abreu and Tyler O'Neill there, they're going to try and work him in some at-bats at second base just to keep his bat in the lineup. You know, you could do worse than taking a flyer on these two guys that they... Or you can probably get them as a pickup, but taking a flyer in the last round of the draft with these two guys might not be the worst thing in the world.
Yeah, I like Victor Scott's 46 walks in that 94 stolen base season. 548 at bats, 166 hits, 20 doubles, 10 triples, 9 homers. I mean, and I like the in the minors, he's got a career 290 batting average and 367 on base. It's pretty darn good.
Yeah.
He'll never have an OPS over 800 again, probably. I don't know, you know. But hey, that's not what we're gunning for here, right? We're past that point when you get to this point in the draft, unless you want to take a flyer on Chris Bryant and hope that he gets back to that. Anybody else down here on this list going to have an OPS over 800?
I think at this point in the draft, you know, you're looking to fill out your bench. You know, most likely some of these guys I wouldn't draft, but
I missed out on Donovan in last year's draft, and I was kind of upset.
I like Willie Castro. I like Luis Rengifo. I love Whit Merrifield. I like Zach McKinstry.
Where is Rengifo eligible now?
Second, third, short, and outfield.
Okay.
Or it depends
like
on your
that.
format, but Fantrax and Yahoo, I believe, is all for.
27 years old for Rengifo. You're hoping for some prime years. Like I said, I've had my eye on this guy.
You're just
for a
hoping
couple
for
years
600
now.
plus plate appearances
Right.
that you can plug in when your normal starters are sitting,
Right.
and you know that he's going to be playing, and you can plug him in 4 different spots. I mean, that's big.
Yeah, it's just the on base is. I don't know. Last year he got it up to 339, but in 2022 when he was given a lot of opportunities, his on base percentage was below 300. So it just, you know what I mean? It's like they tried to put him in the top of the lineup, it didn't really work. So, but anyways.
Well, I think we've done outfield service today. We're an
think
hour
so.
and 45 minutes in. I think we need to wrap this sucker
I
up.
think so too. We touched on a lot of these names. I feel good about it.
This is kind of exhausting, but
It
again,
is, man.
I think it shows we play in deep leagues. The outfield is deep.
Yeah, it gave me some
There's
hope
no
that
shortage of opportunity in this position.
Yeah, there's plenty of value here in the later rounds, and that's what's given me some hope going into this next weekend because I was getting pretty scared about my ability to fill out the lineup because in this range I'm gonna be looking at starting pitchers as well, and we're gonna talk about that next week.
Ladies and gentlemen, don't do the fantasy baseball advocates are advocating for you to not do what we did and put 80% of your draft capital beyond ADP 300.
Yeah, don't do that.
But if you do, we're here to give you hope on how to navigate these deep waters.
Definitely.
Jay, it's been a pleasure.
As always.
Happy draft season. Have a good week. Good luck in your draft next week. I think
Man, happy drafting. I had so much fun in the last one. This next one's going to be a little different. Like you said, you and I are probably going to be podcasting and sitting there, shooting the breeze for the first 8 rounds for the most part. I have for my team a very important pick in the 4th round, and to be honest with you, I'm really looking forward to hopefully going home later today and looking at the player pool that's hopefully going to be updated. I think it is. Like, the keepers are set in the Premier League as of last night. So I'm hoping to see a player list and really nail down, like, who I'm going to take with that 4th round pick.
I'm thinking the same thing. I'm the 2nd and 5th, and then I'm way deep. So
Oh, my God.
these are deep waters we're treading on.
Oh, man. I tried to trade George Springer before the draft and get some draft capital out of him, but I could. Nobody bit, and I tried to.
You could still make a draft day trade. You just have to.
Yeah. I mean, I think the more likely scenario for me is after the draft and after the rosters are set that, well, first of all, my unkeepables are Albies and Zach Wheeler, and so now I'm settling into the idea of, okay, I've got Vlad Guerrero Jr. for at least 2 more years. So can I build around that?
Well,
Or do I capitalize on that? Do I try to get at least fair value for Manny Machado where he is now? Is this the season that I go younger and let someone else enjoy Manny Machado for a couple of seasons? But I don't know. I think right now I'm waiting. I'm gonna try to get back to prime Manny Machado. I want to see him healthy. But here we are again, where he's not ready to play the field. He's not. That's fine. He can DH, but oh man,
Jay, I got good news
shouldn't
for
tell
you.
people this because I want to trade him.
I got good news for you. It's March.
I know. But
We're all worried about things starting to work themselves out. It's a long ass season. That being said, it's been a pleasure talking about outfielders with you today, man.
I know I'm trying to change the subject. It has. We're going to talk about starting pitchers very soon. I think it's going to be. I think we need to do that on location. I think we need to go where there's going to be some baseball.
Yeah.
Do we need to try to watch one of these Korea games while we're talking about starting pitchers?
We'll talk about this, and we'll come up with something good for our audience.
All right, we will.
Oh.
Chili's.
Yeah. All right, guys. Hey, thank you so much for putting up with our shit today. We enjoy you listeners out there. Again, happy drafting season.
And be well, guys.